If you're in a relationship with an avoidant person, you might have found yourself at a crossroads where maybe you're having a recurring conflict or issues in your relationship, and the avoidant person feels like they would rather be single, or maybe they think that's what should be the answer. So I wanted to talk about why this might be happening, also by sharing an anecdote from when I was in that situation in a previous relationship as an avoidant person. And if you're brand new here, welcome to Confessions of an Avoidant. My name is Wando. I'm here to be your avoidant friend online. I feel like the internet acts like avoidance is this big mystery, and I think it's just because there's just not as many avoidant people as content creators or online spilling their guts about their inner child. So it can feel like a mystery, but it's not. Your avoidant friend is here to do all of those things. And in the spirit of this channel, that's all about sharing is caring, being introspective, self-accountability, understanding the agency that we all have in our lives over our own choices. I would highly appreciate it if when you leave a comment, if you can embrace that energy and maybe share something about your own attachment style. You have no idea how much it helps people. That always helps me as well. Also, little channel announcement. I'm going to start doing live streams where I respond to people's voicemails who submit a voicemail wanting a second opinion, a friendly avoidant opinion about their situation or dynamic with someone who is potentially avoidant in their life. I've been doing that with emails, but I think it could be fun doing it with voicemails. So feel free to submit a voicemail. The link is in the description below. Okay, so let's get into the video. So the avoidant thinks that maybe you guys should break up and that they're better off perhaps being single. There's two things that could be going on here. So one, they could truly just realize that you're incompatible and recognize that there's no point in moving forward in a relationship. I know the internet always likes to depict avoidant people as these people who regret breakups, and they're these out of touch people always in the dumper position, which for my relationships, I've been dumped myself, so that's just not true. But we're all entitled to realize I'm incompatible with somebody, this relationship is not for me, and leave. Now, I know that's not why you guys clicked this video, so I'll talk about that second. Now, the other thing that could be happening is when an avoidant is in the power struggle phase of a relationship, which is going to create more friction in a relationship. Maybe there's more arguing. Maybe there's more attachment style clashes and misunderstandings. An avoidant person might think, okay, this is clearly not working and we don't work together. We shouldn't be together. Thus, I should just be single. And this makes sense. Avoidant people, we experienced emotional neglect in our upbringings. It wasn't modeled to us how to work through a conflict or finding compromises or other solutions. I also think for someone who's more on the clingy side, it's not modeled to them sometimes to understand when it's time to leave, which can lead them to when someone is truly justified in being like, this is truly not the relationship for me. The more clingy, anxious person can be holding on to something that's just gone. So all attachment styles can in some way not realize the other options available in these dynamics. But I thought to add some clarity to the situation, I would give an anecdote from my own past in a relationship that I actually talked about in a previous video, why I returned after no contact with my anxious ex. That was a situation where we were having lots of fights and we were not seeing eye to eye on so many things. And I thought, this isn't working. I also moved to a new city to be in that relationship. And I was in my 20s. And I think those things were getting in my head as well. And I think this is an underreported story in conversations about attachment, how the time you're in your life, how that is impacting you, a new job or moving to a new city or starting out in your career, how those also play a role in your availability in a relationship. Maybe we'll make another video about that. But I was in my 20s. I was in my third relationship. My previous relationships before this didn't last very long. And in this particular relationship with this anxious person, I had never dated a super anxious person before. And not that all anxious people are like this person, but he was so clingy and so insecure, and he coped with his insecurities through some controlling behaviors, which alarmed me. And for him, I wasn't a great communicator at that time in my life. I think I was aloof. I wasn't super open. And I also think I wasn't so forthcoming about some things because as an avoidant person, I was avoiding the sphere of conflict because I knew he was insecure about certain things. I never dated someone like him. He was so intense. He was so passionate. We'd have these really big fights. I'm not a fighter. So it was just very jarring. I would get very sick of him and we'd have these little mini breakups. And then we had this one big breakup. And with that breakup, I was done with him. Even though I still had feelings of love for him, but all of the fighting and the insecurity and some of those controlling things, those were at the top of my mind in terms of how my mind was prioritizing whether or not to be with him. And so I didn't want to be with him. I thought the answer was to be single and date other people. So we went through no contact, really for the first time, no contact, and letting each other just try to move on. I dated other people, and in dating other people, I realized that was not the solution. Because in dating other people, in being single, I was being around other people who didn't make me laugh as much as he made me laugh, who I felt like didn't understand me the way I felt like he understood me, who didn't have similar interests and didn't have an organic conversation that they could keep going and flowing with me the way he could. I just wasn't being stimulated by other people. And that's when I slowly started to realize I miss my boyfriend, my ex-boyfriend. And maybe the solution isn't to be single. Maybe there's another option that I'm not realizing, which is we can take our time and try to come back together, rebuild the foundation of this relationship. We now know where our problem areas are in this relationship, where we get under each other's skin, how much we trigger each other in certain areas. And with that, we can build that better foundation. But it took me being single and being in other people's company and realizing their company isn't as good as my ex-boyfriend's to understand for the first time in my life that the grass isn't greener, that being single isn't always the answer after there's, significant conflict in a relationship. And it makes sense. I came from a childhood of emotional neglect. Conflicts weren't worked through in my childhood. My caregivers were ignoring me, or one of them was screaming at the top of their lungs for 30 minutes at me for absolutely no reason. And I wasn't allowed to say anything back to them. So, that's how black and white thinking develops. It's you don't understand the concept of options. So that's why no contact can just be this powerful tool in that people will live life without contact, without their ex, and it will help them come to some realizations that they're just not going to come to in the relationship, no matter how much their ex is pleading with them or whatever. I also think it was very good for my ex-boyfriend because it helped him kind of chill out as well, realize how much some of his reactions were just so intense and exhausting for me. Not everything needs to be this big knockout, drag out fight. And so when we did come back together, we were way more intentional about how we handled each other's differences. So the second thing, which is actually the first thing that I brought up, that might be going on if they want to be single, is that they truly want to be single because they recognize that there's not compatibility in the relationship. Everyone is valid, in my opinion, in not wanting to be with somebody else. I've been dumped twice. It sucks, but I feel like I'm good at accepting, and maybe this is because I'm avoidant. I'm good at accepting when someone doesn't want to be with me. I don't want to be with somebody who doesn't want to be with me. And I feel like if someone doesn't want to be with you, let them go. whether they're confused and they eventually realize, oh, I want to come back to my ex, or they're not confused, you're not going to know. And it would suck if you waste months and months, years of your life just binging content about your ex when they're moving on with their life and they are clear in not wanting to be with you, and you're just sat there and your life, it's going from January to March to November, and you're just sitting there still binging content about exes, trying to get inside their mind, hoping that they'll come back. It's like that Taylor Swift song, Right Where You Left Me, about that girl who's just sitting in the restaurant, that corner booth in the restaurant that was her and his booth, and she's just waiting for him to come back. And meanwhile, he's got a wife and a child, and they're putting up the Christmas decorations, and another baby's on the way, and she's still at the restaurant. That is the scary thing when you are so focused on, your ex coming back, and it's your entire life just binging content on YouTube about like your ex coming back. And I just want to encourage people, they might not come back. The power of no contact is you can get back to your old self in that no contact period by surrounding yourself with things that make you happy as an individual person, that bring you fulfillment, a self-actualization as an individual person. And that's just going to make you stronger, happier, and more healed for when you meet another person who is more compatible. Don't be the girl sitting in the restaurant. So my next video is going to be a follow-up to this video, how to handle when your avoidant partner thinks that they want to be single. Maybe you have enough information in the relationship that you know that maybe they're just confused, and maybe when they're saying this, you can sense that they're kind of confused. So the next video is going to be about how to handle that situation. If you like this video, can you give it a like? Thank you so much. And subscribe to my channel if you haven't and you're watching all my videos, and I'll see you in the next video.